A lifetime of hard work, children laughing in the kitchen, family photos on a restaurant wall, a legacy that lives on. It all comes from the power of a conversation, like the one Tommy Hall had with First Horizon Bank about taking over his father's Charleston-based restaurant business. Now the table is set for a whole new generation. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Tommy. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Welcome to Spockcast, Stardate 6877 Mark 16. My name is Timothy and I'm in the USS Toronto, and I'm joined once again by Jonathan Kuhlheim in the USS Mississauga.
Yay!
And we also have Jaime Lopez, captain of the USS Seattle.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Alrighty. So I guess we'll just dig into some fact check. You got some fact check for us, John?
I do have a little bit of fact check. 206 in last episode, we were discussing how Thor lost his eye. So I just went back and double checked by watching a little bit of Ragnarok. And yes, he did indeed lose his eye when his sister slashes him across the face with her sword. So yeah, talked about that.
Cool. All right.
9 minutes in, we were talking about Detective Comics 1000. And you had mentioned you'd seen one on Amazon. So I looked up what that is. So apparently they're doing a deluxe edition of Detective Comics issue 1000. It's coming in June, and it contains a bunch of bonus materials, including an extra short story and a gallery of covers and stuff like that. So it's a super hardcover fancy edition of the book that we talked about last week.
And of course, it's available for pre-order now.
Of course it is.
Yes.
3330. We were talking about the name of Laurel and Vok's son. I had looked it up last week very quickly before we recorded, and I had it as Tenavik, but space.ca listed it as Tenavik.
Oh, that's how I spelt it. Tenavik. Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Woohoo! All right. And my fact check, as I was mentioning last week, and I got to go back and listen to the audiobook that was for First Man, which is where I had heard about the popularity of Neil Armstrong's signature. But apparently, yes, in fact, Neil Young. Did I say Neil Young?
Just right now, you did.
Oh, but so Neil Armstrong's signature is in fact the number one sought. Sorry, what? Sorry, Neil Young's signature is actually the number one.
Neil Armstrong.
I'm sure Neil Young's autograph is worth quite a lot as well, but
man, okay, right.
Maybe not as much as Lance Armstrong.
Wait, are we talking about Lance Armstrong, Neil Young, or Neil Armstrong?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that the other day. All right, enough shenanigans. So, in fact, Neil Armstrong's signature, as I mentioned last week, is it turns out it's actually the most popular or most sought out autograph of all, and it's currently valued at, well, this is as of the time of this article, Wikipedia page, whatever it was I was reading. I'll link it in the show notes. Is worth $7,500, and I'm assuming that's US dollars. But I think that the author of the book said it was worth more, but I don't actually have a print copy of the book, so I can't really just flip back to the page and find that. But it was near the end of the book, so I can probably zero in on it. But yeah, then that's cool. So, I mean, you would think, I guess the question is, who do you think the most valuable signature is? And people would go, the Queen of England, or, Lance Armstrong or something, but... No, they'd be wrong. It's Neil Armstrong. So there you go. I mean, technically, he is the only guy. He's the first guy that went to another planet,
Well, technically not a planet, but sure.
Yeah, whatever. A space orb.
Yes. Celestial body.
Yeah. By the way, your link is broken in your headline. What's your headline with the broken link?
Which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at the first one there.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't work for me either, and it looks like some sort of session, like you were signed into something, and now we're getting a bogus link.
Maybe they took it down. So I'll dive right in. So this is our first headline. So we got a picture that went online earlier today at StarTrek.com that was supposed to be the announcement of one of the next Star Trek cruises. Apparently Star Trek does cruises where you get to go on a cruise with members of the cast. And so it had a picture of the actor who is playing Spock, whose name I cannot recall off the top of my head. You guys know it off the top of yours, feel free to jump right in. Anyway, so it's a picture of him, but it's him as shorn, uniform-wearing Spock. Mm-hmm. So it's our first look at what he would look like, more like the Leonard Nimoy Spock with the blue uniform and the haircut and no beard. And now I'm wondering, now that you guys mentioned it, I wonder if that has gone bye-bye, if they've taken that down, or if that is still up somewhere. But I thought it was kind of cool that it's a weird place for us to have gotten a glimpse of that. It makes me obviously wonder if we're going to see him in that state at some point this season, or if that is just something they did as a promotional image. But it was interesting to see, because this year obviously we've been treated to fuzzy-faced, scraggly-haired, vaguely stylish. I'll give him credit. His uniforms are quite nice, but yeah, Spock has not looked quite as Spock-like as we remember. He looks a little bit more like what we find him at the beginning of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. All right, let me see. I've got a story here. An update as of 11:30 a.m. this morning. This image has been removed by the request of CBS.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's Ethan Peck, and there's a picture of him without beard on IMDb.
Does he look like? Is he wearing a blue uniform, and does he have pointy ears?
No. I'm sure we could Photoshop it for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see somewhere in the universe we must be able to find a picture of him that has been. Somebody must have screen captured this. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Right
yeah,
here. I got it. I'll on Reddit.
You got it?
Yeah, it's on Reddit. Of course, it's on Reddit. Thank you, Reddit. Been taken down at the behest of CBS, but they haven't gotten to them yet. So here we go. Right, there you go.
Oh, I did see this on Twitter, and I didn't realize it was an official pic.
So yeah, this was up on online this morning on StarTrek.com, and of course, a few different blogs that I frequent jumped on it, and it was making its way around the socials, because this is the first look we've had at Ethan Peck looking like the Spock we all remember. Particularly, I like the cruise ship with the nacelles too. That's a nice look.
Yeah.
It's the name of the ship is the Explorer of the Seas. Do you not feel a little disappointed that this cruise ship isn't named Enterprise?
No, yeah, I kind of am. Well, here's another picture of him. Let me grab this picture. I think maybe somebody must have photoshopped this one. Yeah, that's what it is. Never mind. It's a fake.
Yeah. So the bottom line on this is that CBS has clearly taken this down, but it does seem like if you'd like to, Star Trek fans, go on a cruise with Ethan Peck, apparently that's going to be up on offer soon. So, guys, cruise? No?
If they've got the cruise ship with the big old warp engines on it, I mean, it'd be worth it just for the selfies, if nothing else.
Yeah, I would just go to a port to take a picture with that. Yeah, so we're starting to get a few more little teasers for Avengers Endgame. So we got a clip that was on Good Morning America at the end of last week, or beginning of this week, I guess. That was a sort of a full scene. Clearly looks like it's from somewhere early in the film, but it's of Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, meeting with some of the surviving Avengers, and basically they're asking her why she, where the heck she was during all this chaos when, New York got invaded and where, the snapping happened, and she said, Earth isn't the only planet in the galaxy, so very matter-of-factly. So we get a little bit of a background on the fact that she's, clearly she's making her hay as a hero, just not necessarily where they are. Though.
Right, yeah, and they don't have Avengers, she said.
Yeah, and all the other planets don't have Avengers, exactly. And we also got a couple other clips. I don't know if you guys have seen the other commercials that we've got. There's one that's got Captain America doing a little sort of monologue, TV commercial style one, and there's another one I just saw tonight. It was during the Star Trek episode. They aired another commercial that was another 30-second spot with Thanos doing a voiceover about, I beat you once, I'll beat you again, basically.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it seems like we're getting just a little bit more to chew on as we get closer and closer. Obviously, we're only a couple weeks away now, so it's more tastes. What did you guys make of this scene?
It was interesting. I mean, probably a little bit too much exposition. This was like somebody must have been on the show and they had a clip or something like that? Was that what it was on Good Morning America?
Well, I believe Good Morning America is on ABC, and ABC is owned by Disney, and Disney owns Marvel. So I think it was we can show you a scene from the movie that no one else can.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, sometimes they have like one of the stars on the show, and they have a clip with them in it. But yeah, this one seemed to feature, like you said, it featured most of the surviving Avengers that we know of, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It was interesting. It kind of closes off the scene where Thor, grabs stabs the hammer right by her head and she doesn't flinch,
Yeah.
Oh, I like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, I like this one.
Yeah.
Unfazed.
He does. All right.
Next up, a little bit of more Disney Plus news. So we got 2 new show announcements this week. The first one was that we're going to get a Monsters Inc. revival at Disney Plus, and that is going to actually feature Billy Crystal and John Goodman from the original film, and it's going to be called Monsters at Work. And it sort of continues the story of
Sully.
Mike and Sully. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Can't say that I was expecting that, but definitely, especially if it's done at like Pixar level quality animation, that's pretty neat.
It wasn't the Monsters University or whatever it was. Wasn't that sort of...
Well, Monsters University was a prequel.
Yeah, but wasn't it sort of not that popular with the fans of Monsters Inc?
No, I think they were all a little disappointed that it went backwards and not forwards.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah. And the other thing we got news of, which was another big surprise, was that there's going to be another Marvel series added to Disney Plus, and it's Hawkeye. Jeremy Renner is signed on to star in a Disney Plus series based on Hawkeye. So
just in time for Arrow going away.
Yeah, some of this got to be clearly. There's got to be a bow and arrow on TV somewhere. But yeah, it's a bit of a surprise, and there's talk that maybe it's going to follow some of the storylines from his comic arc, where there's actually him training or working with a young woman who also is an archer who may or may not fill his role down the line. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with that. And I must admit, it's kind of surprising to see that's another series that they went to. We, of course, got news they were going to do the Scarlet Witch. They're going to do Loki. They're doing a Falcon and Winter Soldier series. So this is the 4th different Marvel straight from the movie theaters characters TV series for Disney Plus. They're really stacking the deck here.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. And spoilers for Avengers Endgame, but when you realize that it's not just Ant-Man, but in combination with Hawkeye threading the needle to deliver and to the right spot, I'm sure that's how Avengers Endgame ends. I'm sure.
Yeah. You're holding fast on that theory then?
Yeah, I mean, my addition is Hawkeye is doing like a their own fastball special that Wolverine and Colossus do.
Yeah,
tiny and with arrows.
Yeah, well, they did that in Civil War, right? In Civil War, Ant-Man climbs on board the Arrow, and Hawkeye shoots him into the air, and that's how he ends up inside of Iron Man's armor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because he fires the arrow, and Ant-Man is on the tip of the arrow, and then he ends up inside Ant-Man's suit, and he starts unplugging things and talking to him, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, again, just a little bit more kindling for the fire here. Do you guys want to jump ahead and talk about some of the other Disney Plus stuff, or do you want to get to that?
Yeah, we can stay on Disney for a bit, because we obviously have I've posted something and Jaime's posted something as well. So
yeah. Why don't you jump in?
Yeah, the news came out fast and furious on this, so I'm glad you guys picked up links as well, because I definitely didn't see like half of this.
What's the news?
Well, Disney talked a whole lot about Disney Plus. One thing is they are rolling it out on November 12th for $6.99 per month.
US.
Undercutting Netflix, right?
Right. And you can get it cheaper. So instead of $83 per year at the monthly price, you can get it buy all of a year at once at $69.99 US per year. And it'll be, of course, in your smart devices. And I don't know if it's this article or another one. They talked about the fact that they're pretty sure they're going to likely bundle Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu in some sort of cheaper package. That
yes,
would
the
be,
article you had up there before, yeah.
Getting all of those separately. So,
of course, two of those services aren't available here in Canada, which kind of makes you wonder: is Disney Plus going to roll out worldwide, or is it going to roll out US first?
I was going to ask you because I didn't see anything about
soft launch
locations.
in the US, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's Disney, so of course it's going to be a global thing eventually. But I don't know if they're going to start off small and then get big, or if they're going to do. Yeah, I haven't seen any intention about which markets they're going to go to and what they're going to do.
Well, interesting. There must have been a keynote or something today because some guy named Bob Iger, Bob Iger. He tweeted out today a picture. Thrilled to share a first look at Disney Plus with you, and it's got like a very. It looks a lot like this TV app that runs on the TV on some sort of fruit company's device. that, you know, in the big banner across the top, they got the Mandalorian, you know, and then they've got different sections like Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic. And then, of course, below that, they've got, you know, Captain Marvel movies, Snow White, Coco, you know, Star Wars itself, and Free Solo. So it's just a screenshot of what the Disney Plus interface will look like on whatever device it runs on. Do we even know what devices it'll run on? Like, will there be an Apple app or?
I don't know. I mean, it would be hard to imagine that they wouldn't have functionality through any number of devices, iOS plus, Android plus, you know, the Samsung TVs and smart apps and stuff like that on televisions, right. PlayStation, Xbox.
Yeah, smart TVs, web browsers, tablets, mobile devices, game consoles.
Right. Okay.
Streaming services also secured deals with Roku and Sony for availability on their respective platforms. So,
yeah, don't we know somebody who worked on the app, Jaime?
For Disney Plus?
Yeah, our little friend there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I think so.
Is this app?
Maybe I'd have to go back and look and see. It might have been Movies Anywhere.
Movies Anywhere. That's what it was. Yeah, it's not the same thing, I guess, right?
No, it's a little different, and it's also worth pointing out that Disney is ending its Vault program.
Everything coming out of the Vault or staying in forever?
So it depends how you think of the Vault. So the normal thing of like, oh, you want Cinderella? Guess what? I hope you bought it between these 2 weeks in 1997, because otherwise it's not coming out for another 15 years. They're going to stop doing that, and instead all of that stuff will be available on Disney Plus.
That's what I was getting at, the fact that, you know, it's going before it goes back into the Vault, you know.
It's in a permanent vault that you can very easily dip into. But at the, you know, if you really want to watch Cinderella, you can just pay $9 or $6.99 that 1 month, and then never watch it again, and then come back, you know, 20 years later and watch it. You can recreate the Vault experience if you really wanted to.
Right. So it's like those vaults at the place where I work, with big giant metal doors that really don't do anything anymore, right?
Right.
All right. Okay, let's go back to your announcement from the AMC crowd, John.
This one bummed me out. So we got news this week too that Preacher is going to end. The AMC series is going to have its 4th season and then call it a game. So Seth Rogen, who's one of the executive producers, announced this week that on social media that it's been a fun ride and they're going to go out with this. I don't know if you guys have been watching. I've been watching. It's pretty gross and pretty over the top. It is not exactly true, but pretty close as far as the tone of the comic book series on which it's based. But for anybody who's read that series and then followed along with the show, they're a long way off from where this story went and continued into. It was it felt like they could have easily carried this on if obviously, you know, ratings and expenses and whatever else merited it. It could have probably gone on for several more seasons. So it makes me worry that, you know, obviously this was not, you know, well regarded or making enough money for them or whatever other reasons they would have for canceling it. But they're giving them one last season, but it sounds like a cancellation.
Sure, I guess, yeah. I watched a few episodes at the very beginning, and then I've been meaning to go back and watch it again, but I guess once it comes onto some sort of streaming device, I can watch it again, right? So
yeah. Did you watch it, Jaime?
I did not, but apparently I can binge through it once it becoms fully available.
On which channel or would you watch that on?
I don't know. I don't know if it's been announced who would have the entire thing. I'd assume Netflix or Amazon would probably end up having it.
Yeah, Netflix in Canada anyways. Netflix was carrying a lot of. They've got the Walking Dead series and stuff like that, so maybe it'll pop up there. But yeah, again, it's a fantastic comic book. If anybody has the time to make for reading that, it's one of those ones where it's probably lessened its impact over the course of time because it's pretty graphically violent and language and subject matter and everything else. But when you factor in the fact that this was a 20-year-old book, for when the time it came out, it was, you know, breaking some pretty crazy ground as far as its its explicitness. And the TV series kind of meandered through its first season. I think it picked up a lot in the second and third seasons. But yeah, it was a 60-issue series in the comic books, and they are probably 20 issues in or so as far as covering that storyline. So yeah, it's unfortunate that it's going to end so soon.
All right, so speaking of The Walking Dead.
And yes, speaking of The Walking Dead, more AMC news. So we've got our official confirmation. We talked about this a few episodes ago that they were talking about developing a third Walking Dead series. Sure enough, Walking Dead The Next Generation. So they're going to do a third spin-off centered around...
It's going to be called Walking Dead Survivor.
Is that what they're calling it?
I don't know, or Survivor Walking Dead or whatever. I don't know. I'm just, like that, vote them off the island. It's gotten to the point where I've actually turned off my PVR. I'm not watching The Walking Dead anymore. I'm officially tired of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I gave up before this season began. I may at some point go back and watch it when it does end up on a streaming service, but as far as the sort of weekly grind of it, I'm the same way. But anyway, this series is going to apparently focus on an unseen pocket of the zombie apocalypse. The expectation is that it's set in a bit of a future, and it's going to feature 2 young female protagonists and focus on the first generation to come of age in the apocalypse as we know it. So
Judith will be one of the characters.
Well, that's, I think, where everybody's mind immediately goes. Is it's going to go to Rick Grimes' daughter, Judith, whether or not it will, or whether it's even going to be set in the same sort of, Georgia, Virginia, wherever it is they are now in the series, that neck of the woods, or if it's going to be somewhere completely different. They haven't said, but apparently it's being slated to begin production this summer, and it's going to debut next year. So. All right. Jaime, you sound too excited. Calm down, buddy.
I haven't really gotten that much into The Walking Dead, and I've never seen Fear the Walking Dead, so it's hard for me to really
this is your chance. You can jump right in on board.
Just right at the beginning is watch Two Broke Girls cast as they star in The Walking Dead.
Girls, yeah. Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, really.
Shamil Shamazel. And Star Wars.
So we got a teaser this week. Star Wars. There was a teaser this week, and this was an interesting one. So they released an image that there's going to be a new EA Star Wars video game called Jedi Fallen Order, and we haven't gotten...
Isn't that the Sith?
Well, I guess that's the question. We haven't got any details on this. It's supposed to be forthcoming this soon, I guess. But yeah, they've released this teaser video and an image basically sort of showing this, that it's coming. Now, obviously EA's had a sort of... what's the polite way to put this? They've had some interesting experiences putting out video games through Star Wars the last few years. Battlefront and Battlefront 2 were both well loved and also well hated by the audiences. They had the issue with their microtransactions that people were quite off put by. I think we talked about that last year. So yeah, apparently they're going to unveil this thing as part of the Star Wars Celebration, which is this weekend in Chicago. So they're going to be streaming this live if you feel so inclined. It's going to be at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. You can watch along on their Star Wars YouTube channel or StarWars.com. Apparently we'll be streaming this, so you can... Oh, and it's going to be on Twitch as well, so there you go.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. And the other thing that I found was so the Apollo 11 documentary that Tim and I have been gushing about for several episodes. They've officially announced when it's coming out on Blu-ray. It's coming out in May. If you want to, it's not quite the same as going and seeing it in IMAX, obviously. But if you want to own a copy of Apollo 11, the documentary with the newfound footage, it's coming out on May 14th.
And the picture that's on the cover is the only picture that shows Neil Armstrong. The only photograph that shows Neil Armstrong on the moon.
The reflection.
It's actually, he's taking a picture of Buzz Aldrin, who's the subject of the picture, but you can, if in the shiny gold lined helmet cover face visor, I guess, you can see Neil Armstrong standing there, dutifully taking a picture.
He's a good man, Buzz.
Yeah. No, Neil's a good man.
Oh, right. He was the first man.
He was the first one. Yeah. Don't tell Buzz that, though. He's still annoyed by it, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, Jaime, you're up.
Yeah, this is a really quick one because we don't have much detail, but if you like choose-your-own-adventure style stuff, like Black Mirror Bandersnatch, and we mentioned the fact that You vs. Wild was coming out from Netflix, YouTube is throwing its hat in the ring as well, and it's also going to be coming up with its own original content based around choose-your-own-adventure style films, I guess, call them that, interactive movies.
It's kind of inevitable, I think. Everybody's going to jump jump on this bandwagon. Didn't we review an app once that was a choose your own adventure app? I think you brought that one up actually, Jaime. On
did I?
More Than Just Code. Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten.
Yeah, it was a while back. All right, so moving on.
Yeah, the next thing we have is a teaser for the animated Addams Family film that stars Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron as the voices of Gomez and Morticia, respectively. And apparently the style of the characters is based on the original single-panel cartoons that were published in The New Yorker. Yeah, so it's kind of a very, very different sort of style. This particular Ars Technica post takes a very negative tone on it, which I don't 100% get. I mean, I don't know that the preview teaser here sort of knocked my socks off, but I also don't know that it really falls into a reboot fatigue sort of thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be interesting. It has probably been long enough since the films and certainly since the show that you could introduce this to an all-new audience. Although, when it comes in the same world, like, I don't know who they're targeting. When it comes in the same world where we already had, what's the name of the Hotel Transylvania series of films? Have been on the last, I think they made 3 of them, and they've been around for the last sort of 6 or 7 years. I think kids will immediately be like, oh, it's like Hotel Transylvania, which is obviously pretty funny, but yeah, that was immediately where I was like, if it's for kids, they're going to be like, oh, it's a ripoff of Hotel Transylvania.
Wait, does Thing have eyes in this picture? No? You don't know who Thing is?
I'm looking at which picture...
The main one with the family standing for the portrait.
I think that is a wristwatch.
Huh? Yeah, I think it's a watch.
Oh, he's got an Apple Watch. Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
It does look like an Apple Watch.
All right. Well, he's up to date now, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I often wondered, of course, the Addams Family is from, I think, even before my generation, but because we had the Munsters and we had the Addams Family, and they were sort of similar types of shows, and I'm not sure. We have to check and see, but maybe fact check for which one came first and which one inspired the other. 1964, it says here, right?
Yeah, it's
for the live action
1938
sitcom.
Was the cartoon, right?
Sorry?
1938 was when the Addams Family cartoon.
There was a cartoon first?
Well, it's a single panel comic strip.
It was a comic strip in the New Yorker in the 1930s.
See, I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so obviously the Addams Family came. So I guess it's okay. So it's like a franchise that's been around forever, and they're just kicking it out again.
Yeah, but you do raise a good point. So since everything has to be a cinematic universe nowadays, I really hope there's a stinger at the tail end of this movie that teases the Munsters as the next film.
Are they owned by the same sort of properties, or
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Of course, the Munsters had one color movie at one point too.
Yeah, but they haven't gotten the same sort of revival bonanza over the decades as the Addams Family.
Not done a redo movie? No, I guess they haven't, right?
I'm trying to think of the most recent Munsters.
Didn't they do when they did one on TV? Didn't they do like 10 Mockingbird Lane or something?
Maybe I'm just looking at the Munsters page right now, but I know they did a Munsters movie because I was a huge Munsters fan when I was a kid, more than the Addams Family. Actually, that was my jam.
Yeah, they both were sort of a little bit circulating on TV when I was a kid, but I can't say either of them really looped me in. What was that? 10?
The mothers were more or less the same, right? So
yeah,
originally aired on Thursday nights on CBS, 64 to 66.
Yeah, it's funny for another one. It's another one of those shows that didn't last very long, but had a lasting impact, right?
Yeah, it was replaced by Batman, ABC's Batman, though. Yeah, because Batman was in color.
Oh, here we go. So the one I was thinking about called Mockingbird Lane was 2012 CBS reimagining of the Munsters. So there you go. This is the Munsters, not the Addams Family.
Jerry O'Connell was in that one. Mm-hmm. Eddie Izzard as well. Mm-hmm. And Portia Del Rossi.
Clearly made an impression. Did either of you even watch this once? I know.
No, I had no idea. See, it's because they went all cutesy. I mean, you're going to try to do a Cloverfield universe sort of thing and go with 10 Mockingbird Lane. Like, that would be hard to remember if you weren't explicitly in the Munsters sort of mood.
Jerry O'Connell as Herman Munster? Seriously?
Yeah, it says they aired one pilot episode. It was viewed by 5.5 million American viewers and was not picked up as a series. So it aired one episode.
It's amazing that you remembered that.
Well, it's a tragedy is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of tragedies, Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to see the first film in the Detective Pikachu cinematic universe, you should be aware that you're probably going to want to go see it on opening weekend because they're going to be handing out exclusive Detective Pikachu trading cards that you can only get while supplies last. They're limited edition.
Interesting. And isn't that the whole point of Pikachu in the first place? Pokemon in general?
Playing the card game or playing on your Game Boy too?
The cards. Didn't the cards come first?
I don't know. Did the cards the trailers or the games come first? I truly don't know.
I mean, in the United States, the first time they became noticeable when they imported it was the video game, but that's not to say that there wasn't some other media prior to that, because I really don't know.
Have you gentlemen seen the new Pokemon trailer?
You mean this one here?
Is it
this one here with
is it the one where they're doing the casting?
Pikachu?
It's the one, the casting calls one, where they've basically got all the different Pokemon auditioning.
Oh no, I haven't seen that one.
It is in the tradition of this series so far. The trailers for this show, it's eerie.
Is that the one that we just saw at the beginning of Shazam?
No, it's not. It's a different one. It's basically got a bunch of the Pokemon, basically one by one, like auditioning for their jobs and showing you like all the different weird Pokemon that are going to be in the movie.
Right.
But the whole thing is set to Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody," and they're all like turning to the camera dramatically and growling and stuff. I just don't get it. I'm just not a Pokemon guy, but this whole thing is weird.
Yeah, I've never gotten Pokemon at all. So
yeah. Meanwhile, as Jaime goes online to look for movie tickets,
right? I played the original game. It's certainly been around for like the last 20 years plus, probably, and it's still going strong. They've got the new, Pokemon Sword and Shield, I think, are the new versions that are going to be coming out for the Nintendo Switch in the next year or so, probably. So it will continue. And Pokemon Go, it's not as huge a fad as it once was, but you still see people playing. Not huge crowds that are disturbing traffic or anything anymore, but there are still millions of dollars to be made on that property.
And they did put out 2 other games for Switch already, right? They did the Let's Go ones that was sort of the first sort of not exactly the same, but sort of Pokemon-esque Pokemon games.
Yeah, sort of like Training Wheels, something halfway in between Pokemon Go and the traditional Game Boy style games.
Right, cool. Right, well, my pick here is, or my headline here is, I discovered this afternoon I was poking around. We were talking about, I think, as this show comes out, which is usually on the Sunday, will be the night that I believe Game of Thrones comes back on the air. Is that not correct?
Correct.
That's the 13th or 14th of April. So apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently Bran Stark sucks. A lot of people don't like this character.
Well, yeah.
And some people sort of said, like, of course, if you name a character after the worst breakfast cereal possible, that could be one reason why. The other one, I think, there's some funny parts here. The one theory that's out there is that Bran Stark is actually the what do you call him, the Ice King? Or
the Night King, yeah.
Night King, yeah.
Yeah, that's been a speculative theory for a while, that maybe he is that, or that he there's all kinds of different things.
Well, they do have that Rey versus what's the name of the dark guy in Star Wars now?
Kylo Ren?
Kylo Ren, yeah. The Kylo Ren Rey FaceTime talks that they have?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he sort of has that with the Night King, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they seem to be sort of aware of one another.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a big blowback against the character of Bran on the TV show version, because he's sort of become dehumanized over the last couple of seasons as he's become the Three-Eyed Raven.
Right.
And particularly his treatment of Mira, the young woman who kept him alive.
Right, yeah.
He was pretty unconscionably cold to her as she was like dragging him on a sled to keep him alive. He was kind of a jerk to her in the last season, so I think a lot of people were like, screw that guy.
Right. Well, we'll see, but so this leads into the dawning of Game of Thrones, which we'll turn to shortly after Star Trek goes into hiatus soon, right?
Yeah, well, we're going to get... so next week we'll be able to talk about the final episode of this season of Discovery and the first episode of Game of Thrones in one big, awesome bundle.
Well, before we get into that, I just hope that they don't have another one of these cliffhanger endings for the last 3 episodes where you went, what now?
Yeah.
Because they've been they got to figure out how to do a proper cliffhanger, those guys.
Yes. Speaking of which...
Spoilers for the end of the season, I'm fairly certain it's going to end on pretty serious cliffhanger, because I think they know that there's going to be a season 3, so they don't have to
Oh, right.
Like, you look at season 1, yes, it wraps up sort of a little too fast than we wanted, and we talked about that many moons ago. But I can see that it had sort of that's a natural break in the story, right? This whole arc is done, and look, here's a semi-teaser for next season. Come watch the Enterprise. You didn't really have to come back for season 2 if you didn't want to. You could still feel satisfied, but I'm going to bet dollars to donuts this season is going to end on we'll see you back next year sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, it is time for Jaime to give us the Parting is Such Sweet Sorrow recap. I don't know how they figured that we didn't figure that one out from the title. So why don't you dig in there, Jaime?
Yeah, so we have season 2, episode 13, Such Sweet Sorrow, which begins with Sarek on a yoga retreat. That will become a little bit important towards the end of the episode, but he's out there meditating, and he sort of comes to a realization. And then we have this whole ticking clock going on situation for the Discovery crew, where they really desperately need to get rid of the sphere data, which means getting rid of the Discovery itself because they can't purge it from the systems. And by the way, Section 31's whole armada, under control by the nanite-powered Leland and company, they're all coming there, and they're going to mess things up for them. So the decision is made to, all right, let's go ahead and abandon ship over to the Enterprise. So they dock, and they send a whole bunch of crew over, and they're like, all right, we've got this thing on remote auto detonate, and it's like, oh, it failed. Oh, well, Wi-Fi is like that sometimes. So, all right, get the torpedoes ready. Just blow it up to begin with.
Before you jump over, they did do the gratuitous shots of the Enterprise and the theme song, and of course the dawning of the Enterprise bridge. They had a big exposition on that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it looked beautiful on like the new reimagining of the high def Enterprise bridge is great. It's slick. It's definitely in that disco style, but they've kept the touches pretty much the same, right? Very similar to like the uniforms that even Rebecca Romaine is wearing as number 1, and spoilers for the rest of the episode, eventually Pike, as he takes over control of the Enterprise again, that yellow uniform for command, but like it's sort of like take a Discovery suit, paint it whatever department color you have, and then update it a little bit to look more like the 60s style, very, very groovy sort of thing. And prior to this abandoning of ship, Burnham is checking out the time crystal and touches it and goes all timey-wimey, as you guys like to say.
Yeah.
She sees all sorts of weird, confusing, that seem to be like previews of what's to come, some bad updates. And as I mentioned, the torpedoes were unable to destroy the Discovery because the sphere data has protected itself and turns on the shields on Discovery. So they're like, oh, what the hell's going on here? Burnham again goes timey-wimey, and this time is like way worse because like she sees like this future where there's like torpedoes stuck in the Enterprise hull, and people are being murdered by Leland, who has infiltrated and started shooting everybody on the bridge.
That's the bridge of Discovery, though, right?
Yes, on the Discovery, which I think leads into their Discovery needing to go back to the future. And they say, all right, maybe we can use this technology, this time crystal and everything we have, and we can somehow fling Discovery into the future where Dr. Burnham, the mother, is, and see if they can just keep this out of control's hands and not let the future come to pass.
Yeah, she kind of goes, when she goes timey-wimey, she sees all this destruction, and then she actually ends up kind of like before Pike even orders the torpedo to be fired, right?
Yep.
She kind of is able to see, having touched the crystal, I would assume, is now able to see what one potential outcome would be, right? So she stops them from shooting the torpedoes?
She stops them from continuing to do so. I mean, I guess they could have eventually destroyed the Discovery if they just unloaded the entire...
No, I don't think they didn't fire one because they just jumped back in time, the way I saw it, right?
Yeah, I didn't know if she was telling them to stop because they'd done to and she knew that it was not going to do any good, or if she was or if she traveled back and then they hadn't done it yet.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I kind of got the impression that she went all timey-wimey and saw what would happen and kind of had an advanced preview kind of thing, right?
Oh, okay. That cut didn't jump out at me, but that actually, what you say makes sense in that it would make it easier for them to get back to the Discovery if it didn't have its shields up from a sphere data, protecting all things. So yeah, that makes sense. I'll have to rewatch that and see, but it's good that you picked up on that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, there was one comment too too, that when number one says, and this is really important because I'm always questioning how could it have all this advanced technology now, and then Kirk and Spock in the original series not know about it. Like there's sort of that, like how are they rewriting the future? And number one says we'll have no more holographic projections, and then she waits a second, and then she says ever. So it's kind of like Starfleet has banned the use of holographic projections in messaging. So
yeah, they had said that at one point when the episode where she had shown up previously, she had mentioned that they were in the process of getting rid of those things because Pike hated them, right?
And because they couldn't trust them now that Control was around, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jaime, carry on.
No, that's really good. And I also think at some point before the end of Discovery's total run, they'll probably do the same thing with the Spore Drive, right? We've mentioned that they'll cover that up at some point. It's like, well, we're cut off from the Spore mycelial network, or we've blown up the Discovery and we deleted all the data plans, that sort of thing. So they have this big conference room meeting where sort of the theme is, what are we going to do? And gosh darn it, Space Romney, Captain Pike he's got faith with the heart, and he's like, I believe that there's a greater calling here with these 7 signals. So we're going to go out to this 5th signal that has appeared, and we're going to see what's going on and see how this is helping us along our greater mission. And this is where the sort of crews split up. So sort of a skeleton crew on Discovery is going to immediately spore drive their way over there, spore jump their way there, and the Enterprise will take like an hour or something like that to arrive at normal warp. And during this sort of prepping for battle and everything, as everybody needs to do, they're either going to put guns on the space shuttles and stuff, or on the shuttlecraft and everything. We have a conscious uncoupling moment between Stamets and Dr. Culber, where they're like very awkwardly trying to figure out where they go or don't go or their relationship. And as it turns out, it looks like Stamets is going to stop doing the starship thing for a while, maybe settle in a starbase or something, or a space station. And Culber says, yeah, after this is all done, he's moving over to the Enterprise.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression he was coming to sort of... Do you think he was coming to say goodbye or coming to settle up? What do you think? Jonathan, you're the author. You would know.
My inclination was when he first showed up, he was going to come and tell Paul that he was leaving and it was going to be hard for him. That's why he hesitated. Right. Okay. But then when Paul was saying, actually, I've been thinking about it and, this is best for both of us, I think then the two of them can sort of both express themselves. Obviously, the relationship is sort of fundamentally broken, but I think even now, Hugh's definitely feeling like, he may not feel the way he felt before, but he knows that Paul loves him. And so there is a really sweet moment between the two of them as they both sort of realize that, that it's not going to happen again and that they are going to go their separate ways.
Sure. And before we move on to dessert, there was a comment there that Spock made to Michael Burnham in talking to her, saying that you did send the signals or some of the signals from the future, because now that the mother is gone, how are they seeing this next signal? And Spock concludes that the scans that they had done that sort of pointed towards Michael Burnham in the first place, he concludes that she did in fact send these future signals to them.
Mm-hmm. The two Burnham theory pays off.
Right. So yeah, in my show notes, I have the Spumoni ice cream, which is
Spumoni, yeah.
Spumoni,
yeah. It's a reference to Spumoni and Poe, the shorter name, because I'm not going to cause a fact check.
Hali Kai Poe.
Oh, good job! I did not write it down. I was like, all right,
Tim for the win.
Poe, which is what Tilly calls the Queen, which is, if you're checking off on your list of was it worth it for watching these short treks, they absolutely did tie them into the season so far. Mm-hmm, so far, we've had Saru's tie-in. We've had in this episode we have the Tilly short trek tie-in. We're reasonably certain that it's heading towards the Calypso craft tie-in for the future Discovery stuff. And the only one we haven't done so far is Harry Mudd. Mm-hmm. And who knows what's going on with that. I mean, it was still an enjoyable episode. You'll still watch it standalone. But if he somehow ends up being involved in this thing, I would not be surprised. Even if that doesn't end up being this episode.
Timey-wimey thing in that thing?
He does not. But, so far, I mean, it could be just 3 out of 4. The short trek might even tie in not to this season. It might very well tie into season 3 if you assume that they already knew they're going to have one.
Or it could tie into the Emperor Georgiou series, or it could tie into a second, because they're doing a second season of Short Treks this summer too. So you never know where that'll pay forward. Or it could have just been a really funny, awesome little short trek.
Yeah. But they got brought to this planet where Tilly knows the queen, who was the brilliant engineer, who they even mentioned this on this episode, that, oh yeah, she figured out how to recrystallize dilithium, and for understandable reasons, she doesn't want to tell anybody how to do it because it's sort of politically unstable to throw in this sort of like, hey, free energy sort of thing into the mix. But she does trust Tilly, especially when she comes bearing ice cream. So they send out a signal, they bring her on board, they sort of explain the situation, and they're like, all right, we've got this thing that we can do. We can take our whole batch of stuff we have and MacGyver our way to a solution here. So we can build a replica suit of from the plans that they got from Section 31 control stuff, and they will power the crystal with dark energy from the dark matter that they have, and possibly something else. There were like 3 different things they said for that, and they went really fast.
I think they melt down a Jeffries tube or whatever they call them in this show, because she said they could get the metal or whatever from the tube that they would cut down or whatever. Oh, for the suit, the polymer type suit thing they needed? Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's the plan, is going to be like, let's send Burnham to the future in the suit, open up a wormhole that they can have the Discovery on autopilot, follow her, and then initially they say, oh yeah, well then she can just leave it and come back, and then they realize, oh no, this is actually a one-way trip. She's not coming back here. This is sort of her destiny to do this. So this kind of leads into my next 2 show notes, where we have the family ties moment where Sarek and Amanda just show up out of nowhere. They're like, what the hell? How did you even get to know we were here? Like, Control cut off the subspace relay, so it's just ship-to-ship communication. We can't even get out to Starfleet and get help. They used their Katras.
They did. That's why the yoga retreat I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, that's where that came into play. So there's some good moments here, some preparation of goodbyes, and sort of setting the stage for reconciliation to some degree between Spock and Sarek, and say, like, look, I'm going to keep my distance the way my son wants me to keep distance, and I'm sorry for everything that happened, for your sacrifices, Amanda. I know I'm a challenging person to be with. And then we also have another moment of a goodbye for Pike, right? That he's no longer the interim captain of Discovery, and he's going to head back and recaptain the Enterprise. And so they give a little moment where everybody, sort of, I'd say salute, but they actually don't salute. It's more like giving attention and sort of a moment to recognize his place.
Yeah, he's got to go back to the Enterprise and melty face the future.
Right, yeah. He's got to have a warp core breach or something.
Right. And speaking of melty faces stuff, my next note is about the cage. So they've got this cage-like structure that they've constructed around the time crystals so that it's not in the sort of open air environment and it doesn't cause weird random things to happen to people and have them see the future. But they're running out of time. It's like this thing is not being, the battery's not being filled up fast enough. What sort of solutions do we have? And it's Stamets, Tilly, and Jet Reno, Tignataro's character, talking about like, how the hell are we going to do this? I don't know. Here's all these different options. Oh, all these options suck. And Jet Reno says, all right, I'll do it. You two get the hell out of here. Make sure nobody comes into the door. I'm going to open this thing up and we're going to let the juice flow, regardless of how things go. And it does go timey-wimey for her, right? She also sees the terrible bad future
but
stuff.
She sees the same sequence of events that Michael
Burnham saw. Yeah,
which is weird.
Yeah. Let's see. As Pike is heading off, and he and Tyler are heading over with Georgiou over to the transporter room, and I guess people are kind of going their separate ways. Ash is like, bro, I hope you trust me because I need to go do this thing. I'm going to have to go this other direction for a little bit to help things out. And Pike's like, all right, cool. And just as they're being beamed out, Georgiou's like, by the way, I'm a Terran from your mirror universe. And Pike sort of winks, is like, what mirror universe? Right? So he knows. He knows what's up.
Yeah, but they don't tell Spock and Kirk later on when they end up in the mirror universe.
No, that would be too easy.
Yeah.
They were all very private people back then.
That's right.
They didn't have the internet back then on Star Trek.
That's right.
Right.
Those little floppy disks they had to use, right?
The only other thing in there, Jaime, was that they had that sort of moment where because Burnham is basically planning on going back by herself, and then she just is sort of planning on going out the door, and Tilly stops her, and then they walk her into the hallway, and there's about 10 of them that have decided to stay behind too. So they're going to man the Discovery into the future with her.
Right.
So
that's true, and they do all
which
their
explains why Kirk doesn't know about the spore drive, because the Discovery ends up in the future.
Yeah. Am I the only one that wants them to go into the future and like be there for the the entire next season?
Yeah, that's kind of sort of what I was thinking. I was kind of wondering that, right?
That would be so much more interesting than the prequel stuff that we're at. I mean, if you think about it, they basically isolated all the name brand people we know from the show are all still on the ship. They're
Except
about
for Spock.
That's true. Spock is the weird one, but you got to wonder if at some point they won't be like, Spock, save yourself. And then, they really could go and have an adventure in the future.
Like that's Voyager. True.
Well, I guess. I mean, Voyager was, other side of the galaxy. This is,
same
1,000 years in the future.
Exactly. Lost, far away from the Starfleet, right?
Yeah.
I guess there's Starfleet in the future, though, so.
I would be ecstatic if that was the case for this show. If it was that they're lost in the far future of the Star Trek universe, that would be so much more interesting than the retro stuff for me.
That's true.
Yeah. So they're gearing up for battle, and we end with Commander Saru on the hot seat as he says, they can worry about captaincy later and figuring out who that is, but at the very least he is the ranking officer on Discovery, so he is taking command of the Discovery for this battle that we will see next time.
Yeah, and again, this is where I sort of went, the ending just kind of went, what? That's it?
Yeah.
Like last week it was like, what? That's it? Like it's no sort of like somebody hanging off a cliff or tied to the railroad tracks and the train's barreling down on them kind of moment,
But wait, what more do you want though? Because they're right now surrounded by Section 31's armada.
Yep. So how did I don't know. I don't get the sense that that's a really, really big threat. Like think about the Locutus episode, part 1, right? Like I remember that being a cliffhanger, right? I can't remember exactly what happens, but I remember thinking, okay, now what, and you guys all had to wait like a whole, summer to see the next piece. And you were all like, it's like the Who Shot JR moment, like, I don't know. They did this at the end of the first season. They all ended up surrounded by Klingon ships, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that, right? So it kind of, I don't know, it's not, I don't know. I always know they're going to solve their problems in 40 minutes on this show. It's not like I'm really worried about them, And, and again, like we said before, we know that Pike and Spock are going to survive, right? Because they have to.
Yeah, everybody else is up for grabs. I did have this vibe in the farewell between Stamets and Culber that Stamets has got, I don't want to be on the show for a long term written all over him.
Yeah, it's kind of like Cass leaving Voyager, right?
I have to go off into space now because I'm a lame character.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they will wrap things up with regard to the spore drive, but I do think that removing Stamets from the equation in one way or another, whether he is left behind in the future or he has to, kill himself or something so that he can't be tortured into becoming, the driver of the spore drive anymore. Like they definitely have to cut that off at some point so that it doesn't become a plot point for the future of like, well, why didn't Voyager just, pull up the planes from the archives and have at it sort of thing.
Yeah, cook up a batch of mushrooms and get going.
There has to be some sort of succession plan for somebody like they couldn't possibly have this amazing drive that will only work with one guy, right? They have to figure out what makes him tick and make other people, right?
Yeah.
Right. They do have some opportunities, right? And that's where I sort of think the cutting off access to the mycelial network in some way comes into play, because they have the plans, right? Like you can, copy the hard drives all you want, make sure you have redundant copies. They definitely have access to the spores because they didn't seem to be especially unique. It wasn't like, they can only live on the Discovery. And the sort of next obstacle is, all right, well, they needed to do that genetic modification and engineering sort of thing to Stamets, right? The illegal thing that Starfleet's like, yo, this is not cool. We don't allow this. Or the Federation says we don't allow this. That's the sort of thing where I think you would bend the rules if you really had to. And that's where I sort of think that the finality of like, we're definitely cutting off the things from the mycelial network in some sort of way, shape, or form so that it's never usable again, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Stamets is going to have, he has martyr written all over him at this point.
Right.
Yeah. Again, it was a bridge. It was a bridge episode. Stuff happened, but really it was table setting.
Yeah, there was a whole section in the middle where they were all reading their Dear John letters to their families, and who writes a letter and then reads it out loud, But
I think they're recording their faces, right? Yeah, huh? They're recording their faces, right? They're looking into their devices.
Okay, yeah.
I think the idea is they're capturing themselves so that they can send that.
They're doing selfie videos. Okay, I
get it. Right. Yeah. But again, nice. Also, again, we're getting a little more each week. We talked about this before. that, we're finally starting to flesh out this crew a little bit. We're not just getting the focus on, sort of the 5 core key members of the cast. We're also getting a little bit more with the sort of stand off to the side players from the bridge crew and stuff like that. We're getting Detmer, and we're getting Oyo, and we're getting, a little bit more, was it Bryce and Reese, and, a little bit more of a fleshed out crew. And obviously they've been, handpicked to be on this, you're all going to the future together mission here. So,
So I have a question. So the before the show debuted, there was this discussion about it won't be about the captain as other Star Treks are sort of about, right? And it would be about this first officer, Burnham. I mean, and so that continues to be the sort of case in that every single episode kind of centers around her. So, just like if Sonequa Martin Green decided to leave the show at this point, they'd kind of be screwed because they've built this whole franchise around her, in a sense, right?
Well, I'm sure she has a contract for multiple years.
But do you not see it that way, that this is how it keeps playing out? Or
yeah, I would say...
Like what Spock was saying, it's always about you?
It's funny, though. I mean, if you look back at all the series, they all sort of had, what we expected to be the central focus. Like, I got the vibe that if you go back and watch, Encounter at Farpoint for the debut of TNG, it's Riker. It's the Riker show, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
Do you not think that they set it up? Like, he's joining the team. It's all about him meeting the different crew members and then he runs into his ex-girlfriend. And it's a very much more, you get the vibe that it's Riker-centric. But I think quickly, people didn't like him that much or find him particularly compelling. And then it became a little more... Well, I think it became a little more ensemble-y. And then I think, people really started to take to Picard as a character. And so Patrick Stewart sort of rose. And, it certainly was an ensemble through the whole thing. But I think people took, more interest in Brent Spiner's work as Data and as, Michael Dorn as Worf. And it seemed to focus... The most interesting episodes were about Data, Worf, and Picard. Far more so than the other characters.
That's true.
I don't know. Do you guys disagree? Or
well, no, but I mean, but in this show, I mean, we've had, other than the shorts with Tilly and the few sections where she's had conversations with Burnham directly, we've had a little bit of Saru in that one episode. Anytime a character has a sort of show centered around them, like even Ariam, it turns out that character is advancing Michael Burnham's future.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I mean.
Yeah. No, you're right. This series, especially if you go sort of back through the whole breadth of the thing through first season as well, because that was sort of about her, fall from grace and redemption story, right? And this one has been about her, the reconnecting her past and her future. Yeah, you're right. It's a very much centered around Sonequa Martin Green and Michael Burnham. Yeah,
and if the Emperor was truly this kick-ass, person who could take over an entire empire, thus the name Emperor, why, when she comes to this universe, is she so, protective of Michael Burnham and affectionate toward Michael Burnham? Because she knows she's not her actual daughter.
Yeah, but then, again, I think that's supposed to point to a different side of her personality that we haven't got a chance to get in touch with yet, the Emperor. Because she clearly does. The way that she talks to, Burnham, there is something there.
Yeah, it's very much a mentor kind of thing, right?
Well, it's mother-daughter, right? Like, it does have a mother-daughter feel, because in her world, Burnham was her daughter before she was groomed and seduced away from her by Lorca, right?
I suppose. Okay.
Yeah, and she does have a soft side that they've hinted at, like when she, briefly breaks character when she's looking at the baby, and I think it's Ash who looks back at her, and then she snaps back into her cold mode, right, when she gets noticed. And then, of course, she's got the here's an option. Why don't we just create a supernova? And they're like, what? That'll kill a whole bunch of people. It's like,
yes.
Oh, well.
Yes, it will.
There are no bad ideas, yeah. No, that's a bad one. So what baby were we talking about? I don't remember that scene.
That was Tenavik, yeah.
Right, when he's on the Section 31 ship, when they're taking him to Boreth, I think.
Oh, okay. Tenavik, did I get it wrong again? Damn it.
The accent mark is going to be hard, because we've only seen his name in one episode.
Yeah.
Some reshowings.
Yeah. Well, last week I wrote it down, and Jonathan we agreed to read it wrong, because
I looked it up.
The tongue better.
Yeah, I looked it up on a site that did a fast recap, and they had it down as Tenavik, not Tenavik. It's Tenavik.
Well, I use the subtitles on the TV, right? So that's why I get the spellings, and that's how I got. Spoiler. That's how I got Poe's name.
Yeah, I caught Poe's name. I was actually funny because I wrote down that she was the Queen of Zahia, And then I had written that down phonetically, but then at one point they were standing on the bridge and you could see the spelling on the logo behind them. I was like, great, thanks for that. So Zahia with an X.
Oh, really? Yeah. So we now know that the Emperor George doesn't like ice cream.
Yeah. So the one thing I was unclear on at the end of these episodes, so they do make a quick reference to the fact that Poe had decided she's staying on board, right?
Yeah.
So she is there.
Yeah.
So that's, again, I think if we're looking forward to, this not all resolving in a nice, neat bow, this could be an interesting mix for next season if it's, we're lost in time or lost in space or whatever it is.
Well, we're also keeping Non on the ship too.
Yeah, so we got a new character there, and she's been, she's had some interesting wrinkles. It'd be good to get to know her a little bit better, but she's been an interesting character. And then adding Poe, so a couple of new, strong and interesting characters. And again, I'm kind of intrigued. And again, of course, we've written Pike out of the story now too. So as you say, I think the real sort of wrinkle is Spock, right? How do they get Spock off the ship so that they can go into season 3, or does Spock go with them and have an adventure that we just didn't know about?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering too if Pike isn't going to have that warp core meltdown like in maybe even in the next episode during the war or during the battle because that would resolve his ending up in the chair kind of thing, right?
It's true, although you'd think that if Spock knew that, he would have done something about it sooner than later, which comes in.
How would Spock know about it?
Well, I guess again that's the question. Does that happen after they jump into the future?
Oh, no, that's true because they have the menagerie episode where
that's where Spock feels the responsibility to get him to the planet, and So,
but mind you, it's already happened too because Vina came and visited him during this season, right?
Yeah,
and Spock didn't have a beard there.
Indeed. I will say, for the record, so we talked about this maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago. We knew that Anson Mount was not coming back, and we knew Rebecca Romaine was not coming back because that had been announced. There has been nothing that said that Spock is not coming back.
Right.
That Ethan Peck isn't coming back.
Right.
That has never been out there that he is absolutely not coming back for season 3. It is conceivable that he is going to stay aboard or continue with them into season 3. That is not off the table.
To Michael Burnham, right?
Well, again, I think people like having the connection, right? It's a very strong connection to old Trek, and it's also I think Ethan Peck's done a nice job of being that character. The beard's got to go, but
true, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I mean that sort of brother sister banter that they have back and forth too. He kind of reveals things about Burnham that is convenient because we get to reveal it really quickly without a lot of questioning. Like, how would you possibly know that? As only a sibling would know, right?
Yeah. Well, so, 1 episode to go. Very exciting.
Yeah.
And did you guys get the preview over there? Did it show over there?
No, I didn't go looking for it yet.
Okay. Well, when it does come up, it'll have a quick preview of things go shooty shoot and boom boom, and Michael is going to step through the looking glass.
Yeah.
So they definitely showed a preview of that.
Cool.
So we'll see. But we've seen the 5th signal, so we have 2 signals left to go in one 45-minute to hour, maybe hour and a half episode left.
Right.
Which is why I'm strongly thinking that this will end on a very serious cliffhanger, and it's like, we'll see you in season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess the other question is, will they, are those signals that they are going to come back and it's all going to wrap up, or is that it's, open-ended? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play it out. Either way, I'm in.
Right. Okay, let's jump on down to the watch list. Woo! Watch list. Yay! Watch list.
That actually looks like Jonathan has a couple items on here.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if we want to talk about that. So the back to Boreth thing that I flagged here. So we didn't talk about this last week, Tim, and obviously Jaime was gallivanting around the United Kingdom. So, but there was a little bit of a kerfuffle about the fact that they were on Boreth, and Boreth had made a previous appearance on Star Trek, and it was in the Next Generation episode Rightful Heir when Worf goes to Boreth to reconnect with his Klingon spirituality.
Okay.
And so the monks reveal that that's the one where they had cloned Kahless, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people were online saying, well, there was no time crystals, there was no weird things happening with time when he was there, and what the heck's up with this? And now that doesn't make sense, and they've messed with the timeline. Mm-hmm. So the writers defended themselves this week and basically said, the reason why this is an article, it's on comicbook.com. They also it was on Sci-Fi. they have basically said the reason they never talked about the time crystals being on Boreth is because it really didn't have anything to do with Worf's storyline. So they were there. It's just they didn't need to be introduced as a thing there. So they touched back on this monastery because it's something familiar, but then people were like jumping all down their throats saying, well, hey, how come you went there and you didn't mention that, this is where those time crystals are when we went into the future. Now you're messing with things. Well, clearly they had. And anyways, so you guys satisfied with that one? Jaime,
there's two different things. So we've established that Worf is like also a very private character. So maybe he was in there, licking and poking and snorting up the time crystals for all we know, right? Like he's definitely a Spock style, like I won't tell you things unless I really have to sort of thing. That's one option to reconcile. And the other thing is maybe he just wasn't, cool enough, or, he didn't have the right membership to get in that spot. And it's like the real world. I want to say it's Disneyland or Disney World, where like only very special guests can stay at like Cinderella or Aurora's, like the castle that you see at the park. There's like an actual apartment hotel sort of thing there. I've never stayed there. I think nobody on this show would be able to stay there. I think it's for like super special guests of Disney, right? And Worf was not on the list. He didn't have the magic pass to get him up there.
Well, you have to get across that bridge too, the Balrog Bridge, right?
Right. So like poor Worf, he got to just hang out by the pool and I don't know, hit himself with pain sticks or something. He still had an adventure. He had fun as far as it goes for him, but he did not get involved in the time crystal shenanigans.
He didn't watch himself, get older and younger over the course of the afternoon.
Right.
And the other things I flagged here, so I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch the Twilight Zone first episode yet?
2 episodes.
The first 2 premieres. There's one that came out last night. The third episode.
It was a 2-hour. It was a 2-hour preview on City, Jonathan. We missed the second episode. If you go on to, if you have, I think it's on Crave.
Yeah, it's on. I think it's on now. Yeah,
I watched it on Crave. Yeah.
What'd you guys think?
It was trippy. I don't know.
Yeah, so I saw the first 2 episodes. The number one, The Comedian with Kumail Nanjiani. You might know him. Fans of the show might know him from Silicon Valley. Is probably his most predominant thing. Or The Big Sick, the pretty good movie.
Yep, both good things.
There was also Nightmare at 30,000 Feet with Adam Scott from, what is he, like from SNL or something? What is he?
Adam Scott was on Parks and Rec.
That's right. Yeah. I think they were both, pretty good episodes. I wasn't like necessarily wowed by them, but this is an anthology type of series. So people who have watched Black Mirror will know the very first episode ever of Black Mirror is not the best episode to start with. So I will give this, more episodes to see how I feel about it.
Well, they were good quality, and the Terror at 30,000 Feet or whatever you called it is a remake of the William Shatner episode of the original Twilight Zone, right? With the
Gremlins on the wing
on the plane. Yeah, this was a much longer, drawn out version. In some ways, it was good. Some ways, it was I don't know if it was predictable in some parts. Or you haven't seen the second one yet, Jonathan, right?
No, but I've seen that original half a dozen times.
You'll find it's quite different. There's the tie-in is at the very end, but it's unrelated to the actual story. But
right, so you're talking about Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
Yeah,
and this is Nightmare at 30,000 feet.
Right. Yeah, because planes didn't go as high back then, I guess.
They did not.
Yeah. Oh, you would know this too, wouldn't you, Jaime?
Yeah, it certainly has. I don't think it's changed by 10,000 feet, but they can go higher and faster and more comfortably.
Right, because of pressurization, right?
Yeah, they've gotten better with the structures and everything. So
right.
There's a lot there, but yeah, you're right. It's not exactly a shot for shot remake of that. So you can't go into it expecting that, but it does sort of tie into the original. There's definitely a little tip of the hat.
Yeah, they would have. Yeah, I was gonna say they would have put the guy in handcuffs a lot earlier than they ever do in this show.
So are you guys gonna stay up on this one? Are you gonna watch it every week?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to start out. My earlier comments weren't to like imply it's bad, but I also wasn't like, holy smokes, like holy, stop the presses, everybody go watch, sort of thing. I thought it was pretty good, and if I'm being honest, I'm like, I'm paying my $5.99 a month anyway, so I might as well watch as much as I can while there's still Discovery to watch.
Yeah. So when I was in grade school, this is our guilty pleasure. We kind of our parents didn't really know what it was about, and we used to watch it and get freaked out. And I still remember being freaked out by one particular episode, which I've never never seen it again. I should go back and see it again. But yeah, we used to watch this, all the time. So for me, it's kind of a, I like this remake. I'm not opposed to it. So interesting. Cool.
Do you think it holds up against? I mean, Black Mirror has done an excellent job of picking up the legacy.
Black Mirror is a whole nother ball of wax compared to this show. I think Black Mirror takes it there. It's much higher level so far. I mean, this hasn't quite come up to Black Mirror quality in terms of WTF-ness,
Yeah.
I think it's a tonal difference. So I think these episodes so far definitely fit with the sort of traditional Twilight Zone tone, and maybe even a little bit of like the Outer Limits tone.
Yeah.
Black Mirror is sort of aggressively cynical as a take. It's very dark. I'm trying to think of like a happy or not crappy outcome in any of the Black Mirror episodes. And
so, I mean, Twilight Zone to me is more like Pulp Fiction used to be. I don't know if you ever read Pulp Fiction. You might have, Jonathan, but sort of the based on I'm talking about having been written in the 50s and 60s, that kind of style of science fiction thinking that went into storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of stretched your understanding of reality and time and space and all that kind of stuff in sort of a more literary way, I guess, right? And this is sort of where that fits, and this show fits. And I think also the fact that it's on City TV at 9 p.m. or whatever it's on, it's pretty close to the unsafe zone for not safe for nighttime viewing kind of stuff that the HBOs and the Netflixes get away with, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, if you think back, as we talked about the first episode of Black Mirror,
the first episode of Black Mirror. I tell people to skip that one. That's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird because it came true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, only it's not the president; it's us on the receiving end.
If we're ready to jump on the next thing. So, Tim, you and I went and saw Shazam last weekend.
Yes,
took number one fan and went and saw it in Screen X.
Oh, yeah, Screen X. That's something we got to talk about for sure.
We went and saw it in Screen X. Hi, Mary. Are you familiar with Screen X?
No, I don't know if we have this brand over here, so I'd have to see what it translates to in American.
So Screen X is basically you go into the movie theater and you're facing a large, as you would, square screen, and then the walls of the theater are...
The side walls.
The side walls are white, and it shows you a 270-degree view of the picture for certain scenes in the movie. So
and it's digitally projected. It's not like 100%. It's not filmed. I don't think it's filmed at the time, but they've gone back in and done these digital renderings of what would be in your peripheral vision if you were in a 3D space.
Okay. So it adds some immersion factor.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think I'm sorry to steal your thunder, Jonathan.
No, you can jump in, man. Go.
Yeah, no. They actually had a preview movie. The preview movie, which they sort of show where they introduce the technology, was actually more successful, in my opinion, than the actual movie itself. But there's one scene where you're looking at planets, in close proximity with each other, and because of the peripheral vision added to the show, as you're looking at these planets, you get the impression that you're looking at a 3D object. Mm-hmm. It's very trippy that way, right? And even in the movie when they did use it, because they don't use it in the whole movie, but in the scenes where they did, it was actually quite helpful in terms of giving you the illusion that it was like looking at 3D, like a 3D movie without 3D glasses on. It was really cool.
Yeah, there was a couple scenes that were, I think, better than others. There was one scene where they did a 360 camera move where there's a character and they're in this very ornate cave and they are sort of panning through the room, and as they do the 360, it shifts 360 around the movie theater. That was a particularly interesting effect. And there were a few scenes, fight scenes and different things, as you would in a superhero movie, where you get that little bit extra. So as characters might be having a fight scene on the screen, you can see things like debris flying by on the sides and stuff. So yeah, it is. It's like 3D without the glasses. It's got an effect. Now, where we were sitting might have been just a scotch too close, so maybe we'd be better 2 rows further back. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you can't really focus in on your peripheral vision, but your brain is aware that there's objects there, right? And that gives you other than the two ocular vision that we live with every day, it gives you that that sort of impression. So it is successful in that sense. It's not 100% successful, but it is very convincing.
Yeah. I don't know that I would go out of my way to see a movie this way. If I was given my choice between IMAX, AVX, this, or standard theater, I'm not sure where it would rank. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I think IMAX 3D is probably the most immersive one, and I've seen a few movies, like I saw Gravity in IMAX 3D, and I was sitting like in second or third row from the back, right? So you had quite a bit of distance from the actual projector or screen, but I didn't mind how close we were sitting. To be honest with you, I was actually pleasantly surprised. And
well, it did feel very immersive because it really was. It filled your full frontal and peripheral vision. There was nothing. I think if you were back a little further, you might get a sense of the scope of how it all looks, but you would probably lose that immersion. So we were probably about 10 rows up from the front of the screen to give you a perspective, Jaime.
Yeah, I'm looking up online some pictures. Okay, I see what you guys are talking about. And there is a Screen X not that far really away from me. So I'll have to see if I can check that out and see what movies they have.
It was the same price more or less to go see the movie that way. We talked about seeing Shazam last weekend, and we sort of figured out, well, maybe we'll see it here, maybe we'll see it there. The IMAX screenings, because it was the first weekend, were obviously sold out, and it's not going to be in IMAX for very long because obviously it's going to get bumped out of the theater pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, it might even be bumped out by this weekend because Hellboy is opening. So we sort of looked at the IMAX and was like, oh no, there's no good seats there. And then I noticed that they had these, and I thought, well, you know what? We'll kill two birds with one stone. We'll do Shazam and we'll try this technology out. So as far as the movie itself goes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was
fun.
Really fun. Jaime, I assume you haven't had a chance to see that yet.
I have not, and I'm looking at the box office, and it's doing pretty good. So production budget was $100 million, and so far, including domestic and foreign, it has grossed almost $194 million. So
on its way to recouping costs. The box office sales, like it actually is. It's not Avengers style great. It's entertaining. It's funny. It's a bit adolescent in some scenes, but then it needs to be because of the subject matter. And there was several guffaw moments, and the entire audience was guffawing at the same time, right? So it was pretty funny. I've been telling a few people about, without giving too many spoilers away, about the scene where they decide that it's basically two 15-year-old kids or 13-year-old kids, and they get this power, this buff body, as Jonathan put it, and they get to act like adults, and they decide, well, let's go get some beer. Yeah, right. And so he walks in and he says, I'd like to have some of your finest beer, and of course, and then while they're in the convenience store, it gets robbed, and the kid that's not Captain Marvel or whatever, Shazam, I never call him that, by the way, kind of does the head thing, and he goes, oh, you mean I should go help? And so he runs over, and they start shooting at him, or they shoot him once, and he keels over as if he's been shot, and then he realizes the bullet just bounced off him, and the two kids are like, do it again. So the two criminals start firing, rapid firing at Shazam's chest, right? And then the other kid says, hey, wait a minute, they shot you in the suit, what if they shoot you in the face? And the whole audience goes, no.
But sure enough, bulletproof face.
Bulletproof face.
Yeah. No, it's that's the tone of the film. Again, we won't spoil any more for Jaime or anybody else, but it's got a real, it is the elevator pitch of this movie is it's Tom Hanks big with superheroes and capes. What does a teen tween boy do if he ends up with the powers of Superman? What's his name? Zach, who's the star? Zach, what's his name from Chuck?
I mean, it's kind of like it's like the beginning of Spider-Man, where he starts to discover he has these superpowers, right? And he does all the goofy stuff, like he goes and wrestles with people, and he tries to run up and down buildings and stuff like that when he first gets them. It's like that for the whole movie. Yeah, like the whole movie, all the way through it. The kid who turns into or uses the word Shazam to turn into Captain.
Yeah.
He's like amazed by the whole thing all the way through, right?
Yeah. Zachary Levi, that's the guy I was thinking. Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
He was great, and everybody seemed to be enjoying themselves. Had a really good time. Mark Strong is the bad guy. He was the bad guy in Kick-Ass, I think, as well.
Yeah.
He's great. Leans by every sort of stereotype of a villain, but a great one. I would highly recommend it. It is the Ant-Man of if you're looking for an analogy. Yeah. It's fun and it's funny and it's a joyous kind of movie. It's a lot of fun and there's a lot of heart to it. It's got a real sort of family kind of thing to it. It's about a lot of complex feelings and stuff in there as well, but they don't beat you over the head with any of it. It's not too much superhero-y, it's not too much character-y, it's not too sweet, it's not too funny. It's a really good balance. And again, it's not going to do the kind of bank that we see from an Aquaman or a Wonder Woman. It wasn't going to be that in the same way that you can expect Ant-Man to make the money that Avengers did, right? But but it's well worth a watch. I think it's going to do very well on second weekend
views.
Based on word of mouth, especially because
on Netflix, for sure.
Well, no, just the second weekend in the theater, like that's always the test: is how much does it go down? Right. But the only competition that's really up against this weekend is the debut of the new Hellboy reboot, and that is getting tattooed online.
Is it really? Oh, okay.
I think it's at 11% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Well, I'm gonna really shock people, and especially listeners of this show. I'm gonna say that Shazam is better than Pacific Rim.
I mean, I haven't even seen Shazam, but I would probably guess that too. But and you mentioned on MTJC as well. I'm like, longtime fans of this show will know that there's like a niche. There's like a time for Pacific Rim, and it's not at like 11 p.m. on Sunday when you're watching it on TBS or something. No. The time to watch Pacific Rim is when it's in the theater.
Yeah,
and you can go and watch giant robots punch big monsters in the face, and you just turn off your brain. Don't think about taxes. Don't think about work. Don't think about walking the dog. Just eat your popcorn, drink your soda,
and watch the kaiju and the robots beat the tar out of each other.
Exactly. The movie Stealth with Josh Lucas probably and Jamie Foxx and I see her face, but her name is escaping me. We'll fact check that
Jessica
one.
Biel. Jessica Biel.
Yes, thank you,
yes.
Jessica Biel. Stealth. That was the one with the autonomous plane, the fighter jet that goes rogue, and they have to chase it down,
green screens and stuff.
Yeah, like that movie is definitely not as good when you're not watching it in the theater for the same sort of go watch stuff blow up popcorn movie.
Yeah. You will be happy to know, Jaime, they showed the Godzilla King of Monsters trailer before Shazam on that great the big screen and everything. That is exactly what you're talking about. That movie. Yeah. They showed the full trailer with Millie Bobby Brown and the monsters and stuff, and oh my god, that looks like such a great big screen movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely should be called Godzilla Collateral Damage.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. So I went and saw Don Quixote, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, yesterday after waiting 30 years for this movie to come out, or at least for Terry Gilliam waited 30 years for it to come out. It's funny. I mean, it's a typical Terry Gilliam movie where you kind of want to watch it a few times to sort of get all of the sort of things that go on. But I mean, suffice to say, it's a story about a director making a commercial with Don Quixote as a character, and it's based on a film he did as a student. So there's flashing back and forth to different parts of the film, the way it's, and of course typical Terry Gilliam told in a sort of really frenetic kind of way. When he was a student, he discovered a shoemaker played by our hero. I'm forgotten his name now.
Adam Driver?
Adam Driver is the director.
Oh, okay.
What's the guy from Brazil? He's in a lot of Terry Gilliam movies. Anyway, it'll come back to me in a second. But so he's a cobbler basically, but he's got the look that Adam Driver as a student wants to have, and so he convinces him to become Don Quixote for this student film that he makes, and it basically kind of the actor, the cobbler, becomes obsessed with this character, and so he discovers that 20 years later or 10 years later, the man's still running around the world on a horse, thinking he's Don Quixote and tilting at windmills, right? But so the story's told. It's told in, like I said, Terry Gilliam kind of style, where he tells some of it's in present day, some of it flashes back to the making of the movie. Some some of it flashes back to the movie that he made. And then there's the whole like scenes where it's all 17th century Spain, right? So like it's filmed in modern day, like today. But there are scenes where he turns a corner and all of a sudden there's like people dressed in 17th century garb, and you have to kind of watch it for a few seconds to realize, is he in a dream sequence now, or is this a bunch of people doing pantomime or costume ball kind of stuff? So there's all kinds of different metaphors that happen throughout the whole sort of series. Like, so you never really can tell when you land in a scene whether it's really happening or in somebody's mind. So it's an interesting telling. I mean, I don't know if it's his best movie per se, but it is quite entertaining. So,
Jonathan Price, I think was the name you were
Jonathan Price. Yes, thank you.
Yes,
yeah, real time follow up. If you're familiar with, and it plays on the actual Don Quixote story. If you know anything about that story, that he saw windmills as giants, and he would charge at them with his lance and get caught up in the veins, right? So that happens quite a bit in the movie, but yeah, so it's interesting, and I think they actually do show the original Don Quixote movie at some points too as well.
So would you recommend this one as obviously theater is pretty limited. It was only on for like 2 days.
One day only, I think, right? Actually, well, so here's the surprising thing. Like I said, when I saw Zero Theorem 2 years ago when it came out, I went and made a pilgrimage to a theater here in Toronto when it was playing for one night. They were like, maybe 30 or 40 people in the theater. This theater was sold out, and they had sold so many seats that they actually opened up a second theater. They had 2 showings at one time. So yeah, it was obviously some diehard Terry Gilliam fans out there, right? So and again, why is it showing? Like I said, the last movie barely made it into the theater, like other than for one night. But it's kind of an art film. He's an arty director kind of thing. Like he's way out there, way beyond Tim Burton and that kind of stuff. Definitely not mainstream, right?
Yeah, definitely not.
Which is a shame. All right, let's move on to the watch list.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, mine is a video on YouTube. What is this guy's channel? Jerry Builds Bricks. And he shows you how to build the NCC-1701-D Enterprise, USS Enterprise, that is, out of Lego bricks. And he's helpfully had a parts list. It's pretty extensive. There are 96 kinds of parts with 351 bricks in total quantity for the large one. And he's also got a link to a smaller one, which is really not that much smaller if you ask me. It's still 100 different kinds of parts with 284 bricks in total. So it's definitely for like an enthusiast, or you want to spend a very long afternoon putting this together. I think you can order all of these off of Lego's website pretty easily. Yeah. So it's not like, oh no, I can't find out of the big 500 piece tub that you get at Walmart, you're not gonna be able to find it. I mean, you can get the specific pieces and colors that you want. And I think he's helpfully identified every little one.
Right. Yeah, I have a couple of kits that I wanted to get that I missed. I eventually did get them, but when I got there are PDFs of Lego kits online if you look, and you can get the entire parts list, and you can actually go and order every single one of these things from Lego, and by the time you add it up and figure out how much money you would spend to get the bricks, it costs you like 3-4 times the cost of one of these kits. When you go, the kits are like, take how expensive is the Death Star or the X-Wing fighter? Well, quite expensive, right?
The Death Star is $500 Canadian.
Yeah, so.
But it's ridiculous. It's almost 4,000 pieces. It took my sons and I like 3 weeks to build.
Right. 3 weeks of every night doing it?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Now, to be fair, my wife bought that for me as our 10th wedding anniversary gift. So that would mean that my children were quite little at the time, so they weren't as helpful as they think they were.
Right.
So that may have actually been a handicap as opposed to a positive assist, but
right. Yeah, they were involved.
They did have a good time. We spent quite a long time putting that together.
All right. So what do you got for us?
I have something interesting. So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at this. So there is this this documentary that has been underway for quite a while about Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And it had been, funded, and they were going to make it, and then they were going to release it, and then they didn't release it, and then they were going to go back and remaster it. So all that to say, this movie is finally going to be available. So it is coming out for one night only in theaters. I was able to confirm today it is coming out in Canada and the United States on the same day. God, finally something is. So May 13th, Monday, May 13th, you can go one night only and see this DS9 documentary called What We Left Behind. And basically it's a look back at, the impact and effect of this series. It has interviews with all the cast members, creators, writers, and even I guess apparently it has some look at if they were going to keep the series alive, what they were going to do next with the characters, and there's the trailer up online for it, which we have in our show notes. You can go and have a look. It looks really interesting, and it definitely rekindled in me. Like I know people who are sort of everybody has a thing for different. Everybody has their own Trek. My Trek would probably still be TNG, but I think that is probably my second favorite series. And I know there are a lot of people who have different issues with it, but I liked that part of the Star Trek world that they went to that was seedier and dark, because it was the first time they ever went there, right? They would have little missions where they would go on an away mission to be like, ooh, this planet's dirty. Let's go back to our nice clean ship. These guys lived in it for 7 years. And there was, war and conflict and racism and avarice and cultures clash. It had a lot to say about politics and religion and American culture. Obviously, it tied into the war stuff. I really like that series a lot. There's a lot of good stuff that happened in that show. And so when I saw this trailer, it definitely rekindled in me. Like, I want to see this. I want to go back down memory lane with these guys. So, yeah. So as I say, one night only. It's coming May 13th. You can find it in theaters. And then I guess it's going to be released. I think they had an investment, a Kickstarter type campaign. So I think people who were involved with that will get a copy first. And then I don't know if it's going to end up on streaming platforms or if it's going to be available for download from something like the iTunes store or something like that. But yeah, it looks like it's really going to be worth a watch. So
cool. Yeah.
I know you're a big fan. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, I don't see the theater list because this says tickets are not available and not seeing anywhere. It's hard to tell.
About the United States. Sorry, we forgot to mention that.
Yeah, it's coming for one night only to Canada only. Screw you guys!
So I'm kind of wondering, I'm sure there's going to be at least, one theater in Seattle. I will probably be on a work trip, so I might need to check Portland theaters. So this is one I'm going to share with coworkers and see if I can convince a crew of people to go with me.
Yeah, and it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, it says. So this is like a full-on night at the movies. It's playing at 7 o'clock at a bunch of different theaters here. So, yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, you can get tickets if you want to come to Canada.
Go to Toronto.
Did you catch our episode from last week, Jaime? We were talking about how we should have you up here for we should apply for the passes for Fan Expo and do the live show.
Yeah, and I saw the part about the cardboard cutout that you can have bring along to the expo.
Yeah, if you can't make it up here, we're gonna put in for a life-sized Jaime Lopez with the hair cardboard cutout. Bring him along to the show. And so the other thing that I added to the watch list is Game of Thrones, which is a no-brainer for all of us. Yeah. I think, I listed it as Game of Thrones season 8. Obviously, this is it. We're gonna get down to the last 6 episodes. Who's gonna live? Who's gonna die? How's it all gonna end? Are we all gonna be happy, or are we all gonna be miserable at the end of it? I think the anticipation is gonna be a bit of a bloodbath. You guys are equally psyched, I assume.
Yep.
I am, and I'm trying to remember how many episodes we're going to be in this truncated but longer episode season.
Yes, it's 6 episodes, and I think they had the list of times. I think the first few episodes are like 60 minutes, and then a couple of them are 70 minutes, and then the last 2 I think are 90 minutes apiece. So it's more like an 8 or 9 episode season, but slammed into 6 episodes.
It's just going to seem like it'll take forever to watch. Yeah,
it's crazy to think though. Like after all this, it's been years. I started watching the beginning of season 2. I caught up after season 1. I watched it on Blu-ray or DVD, and then started watching it regularly. It's hard to believe that it is culminating, and the 6-week time frame does seem really short after all this build-up. It's been 2 years since the last season, and to think that it's going to be over in 6 weeks is both exciting and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine how they possibly live up to the hype, and yet I do feel confident they will.
Yeah, it's funny. A friend of mine said today he's debating whether to binge the whole thing, like binge the whole season 8.
Yeah, except how do you not get spoiled for the next 6 weeks?
This is the thing.
You'd have to never go on social media and really avoid a lot of the internet, because even mainstream sites are all over this stuff.
Yeah, it'll be on the news and all that kind of stuff too, for sure.
And also it'll be on Spockcast, so don't forget to tune in for that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it. Yeah, it's pretty scary. All right, well, I guess that's it for another week. So, hey, Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you, where would they look?
I'm on Twitter as @DevWithAHair.
All right, and Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram as @JPKNews.
All right, my name is Timitra, Timmitra. On the Twitcher machine is where you'll find me. And until next week, we'll see you in the future.
Bye. Bye.
If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter @SpockCast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpockcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us out on our website at spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
The other thing I will bring back up is from last week. Mm-hmm. I finished watching
that show with those people.
That show with those people. It was so good, and I completely forgot the name of it. Big Mouth, the one I was telling you about, the cartoon with the kids and the going through puberty and stuff like that on Netflix. Yeah. It is awesome. It is so worth a watch. It is disgusting and hilariously over the top and super
even
funny.
The trailers, like, whoa.
Oh yeah, no, it's very, very not. You have to be comfortable with a lot of biology, but it is really super funny. There's so many great performers, and I just laughed so hard through that thing. The jokes about the facial hair of the average 13-year-old made me laugh, because I have one of those. At one point, the kid's parents are so sick of his sad little mustache, they hold him down and wax his lip. It's
really?
It's just, I'm like, yep, I hear it. I'm there. I'm right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. So, how was England?
How was England? It was good. I was in Chester. That's in the northern part of England, closer to Manchester and Liverpool, and so very far away from London, for folks wondering about that. The conference, Code Mobile, was really, really cool. A lot of nice people, very international kind of crowd, which was really kind of a nice surprise for me. And the city is more or less a sort of college town for the University of Chester, which is where we were at for that conference. There is pretty cool stuff. You can see the walls and the castle pieces that still remain, and definitely feels like there's a lot of history there. Definitely feels a little bit like Harry Potter. People were, as soon as the beers came out, everybody wanted to talk about Brexit. Everybody had very strong opinions about American politics that were unprompted, but
I don't think either of you guys should be bragging about your current leaders and the way things are being organized. I don't think there's a lot there.
Yeah, I told people, do you want to swap? Because we can swap.
Yeah.
I hear all this complaining out of you, but I think it could be worse, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
And people were surprisingly open to my crazy beer idea of if things go wrong and you actually leave the EU, you can get back with your ex and reform the empire with America. And you can have, we came up with all sorts of different names, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez sort of thing. Bennifer is like, no, Great America is sort of tainted with the word great. You can't call it American.
Well, they will make America great again.
Yeah, and so we said, well, let's call it the Empire. And which one's like, what are you talking about? The Empire, the most powerful nation ever in this world's history. And we will absorb Canada. We'll take Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, basically all the former Commonwealth countries. And then the key to the whole thing that made me think like, oh, they're culturally ready for this. Somebody said, well, what about India? I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But clearly you've thought about this before.
Yeah.
So,
did you get India and Pakistan back?
Yeah, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But in the meantime, we've at least got a theme song and co-branding that we can work on with Disney on part of Disney Plus, for example. And we can already have like a march. Our flags already like the same color, so find a way to combine it into one mega flag.
the stars and jacks,
the Union red,
the Union red, white, and blue,
a Union stars and stripes. Yeah, I don't know. You got to come up with a new. See, that's also another one that needs a name. Like the flag.
In the spirit of dyslexia, when you were talking about what it could be named, I was thinking in the spirit of the Holy Roman Empire, I think it could be the Holy Moron Empire. I honestly think if you pitch that one to Trump right now, he might bite.
Yeah, he might think he came up with the idea.
Yeah. We have the greatest empire. It's the greatest empire.
We have all the good emperor people in it.
We're building the best Death Star. We're building the great Death Star. We're going to use the Space Force to fill it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to stay up here and north of the wall and hope that all goes all right.
On brand, on theme with what is the actual time for Game of Thrones?
9 o'clock on Sunday.
9 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah.
If it's 9, I wonder if that's 6 p.m. for us.
I was going to say, I know it's 9. I don't know if it's if they do time splitting or if they just air it all at the same time.
Will it be on the TM and Go app right away, or?
Yes. Yeah, it'll be. You can watch it live. Because you can watch through Crave now. You can watch Crave. You can watch that live now.
I have Crave, but I don't know if I get the HBO stuff for free with my package. Is there like a Crave Lite or something?
Yeah, so there's two versions of Crave. There's basically Crave, and then there's Crave, which is like the Crave, I don't know, Prime or Premier or whatever that has. If you have that subscription, you get to keep that subscription. But I swear that Crave has that in it now. Like I thought that was across the board. That Crave had the HBO stuff. So
no, like some of the things I still have to use. Another way of looking at it. If you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, but yeah, I don't know. Again, I know that I looked the other day because I wanted to watch. It was on Sunday night that just passed, so a couple of my favorite HBO shows are back for seasons. So Veep is doing its final season right now on Sunday nights, the final season of that series, and then Barry season 2 just started a couple weeks ago. And by Sunday nights, I'm usually like, I'll go to bed, but I can watch it on my iPad, just like lying in bed, streaming it live through the Crave app, which is great. It's very convenient.
Cool. All right. Well, I have to get going because I'm tired and stuff.
I hear you.
Cool. All right. So I guess we'll call it a day.
All right, big episode next week. Ooh. Final episode of Trek and Game of Thrones. Very exciting. Think somebody dies in the first episode of Game of Thrones? Think they kill off a major character? A friend of mine was tweeting that he just started watching the Game of Thrones with his I guess his son or whatever to get caught up, and he says I was having such a hard time following all the names in the Game of Thrones in the first episode. And he said, but then half of them died, so I guess it's not important to remember the names of people. Yeah.
Anyway. All right,
it does come around.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Right, see you guys later.
Today, we discuss Miro. Today, I want to talk about the hellscape that is technical diagramming, right? Everybody's nodding their heads right now, And there is a potential solution that I want to share. There was one name that several people brought up. I did some digging, and it's kind of nuts how much this program Miro has for developers. I have to share this. It could potentially be a game changer for you. So my favorite part about Miro is that half the work is already done. Like right now, typically we spend hours starting diagrams from scratch, gathering information. You get buy-in from every team. That's a lot of work to do. But Miro has a full set of integrations with the tools you're probably already using. And they also offer open APIs and SDKs for custom solutions for all those niche diagramming diagramming use cases we have to do, right? So the end result is the same, but it doesn't take forever. It's a massive, massive time saver. I'm transforming basic flowcharts and network architectures, and it all lives in one place. So are you using Miro? Have you used it? I want to hear. That's MIRO.com.
Littleton Coin Company is ringing in the holiday season with daily deals. Visit littletoncoin.com for at least 15% off select products now through November 28th. Save on your favorite coins, such as Morgan Silver Dollars, Kennedy Half Dollars, commemorative quarters, and much more. But hurry, each day offers a new deal you don't want to miss. Visit us now at littletoncoin.com. That's littletoncoin.com. Littleton Coin Company, serving collectors since 1945.